Today's topic is inventory valuation. Inventory means stock. So, stock can be valued in different ways, and first we have to understand why is a stock valued. Stock is valued because you have to, at the end of the year, find out the amount of stock remaining with you. That is the closing stock because it forms a part of your asset. So, in order to find out the balance sheet, tally the balance sheet, find out the total asset, we actually have to value the inventory with us, and that is why inventory valuation is done. Inventory valuation is done in different methods. I will discuss with you two important methods. One is known as LIFO, LIFO, and another method is known as FIFO, first in, first out. So these are the two most common ways in which it is done, two common and very simple ways. LIFO and FIFO. LIFO, LIFO stands for L for last, LAST, last in, first out. So you can see the first letters of each words form LIFO. It means whatever stock we are purchasing, we are issuing the last one first and then we are moving towards the next one. For an example, I have purchased, for an example, 400 and then I've purchased 500 and then we have purchased 300 and then we have purchased 600. The 400 that I have purchased, 400 units of good, that was purchased for 4 rupees. Maybe after that it was purchased for 6 rupees, then 5 rupees, and then again 3 rupees. So when we are issuing these, we have to first issue from here the first, that is 600, because that was the last thing that I've purchased. So from the last I will start. If 600 is done, then we will move to the next 300 and then the next 500 and then the 400. For an example, if I have issued for 900, then these 900 will be first deducted 600 from this and then from the just previous stock, that is 300. So what will remain with me will be 400 units of 4 rupees and 500 units for 6 rupees, and that is how I'm going to value my inventory under LIFO system, last in, first out. Similarly, FIFO stands for first in, first out. FIFO. Over here, if I take the same example of 400, 500, 300 and 600, 400, 500, 300 and 600 units of a good purchase, first for 4 rupees, then 6, then 5, then 3. 4, 6, 5 and 3. In this case, if 900 units of a good is issued, then this 900 will be first issued from the first category, the first purchase that I had made for 4 rupees, and the next 500 from the next 500. So these will get cancelled out, and what will remain with me will be 300 of 5 rupees and 600 for 3 rupees. So this will be my closing inventory. Now we are going to move to a sum in which we are going to deal with similar questions. See, the question says the stock in hand on 1st September 2019 was 500. So this is my opening balance, 500, and that time my per unit cost was rupees 1. The following purchase and issues were made. Prepare the stock ledger, first FIFO method and then the LIFO method. So first you can see my units that are remaining. The units I'm beginning with is 500. So this is my opening balance and rupee 1 per unit. So I'm going to write it down. My opening balance was, this is my opening balance, will be 500 units and unit cost was 1 rupee, so 500 was my amount. So my balance amount will be, there is no issue, this is my balance amount. So what we can do is, we will just simply write it over here. My balance was, I have begun with it, so I will write down over here 500 quantity, unit is 1 and amount is 500 into 1. So this is my opening balance. Okay. In receipt, we do not have to write it over here because this was not a receipt, it was an opening balance. So we may not write it over here. After this, we are going to move to the next one, that is September 6th. This was my purchase. My purchase for September 6th was 100 units and amount was 1.10. So I'm going to write the date, that is September 6th. My quantity was of purchase was 100. So receipt. Under receipt I'm going to write 100 and per unit cost was 1.10. So 110 becomes my amount. There was no issue on that same date. So my balance will be, as of now, 500. That was 1 rupee. And now 110. That means 1.10. And there were units purchased was 100. Now what I'm left with is 110 is my amount. This what we are doing is FIFO. First we are starting off with FIFO. So this is under FIFO system. Till here what we have done, FIFO and LIFO would mean the same in case of purchases. We are recording purchases. When it comes to issue, that is when the differences arise. Now next date that we have is September 9. This was a date of issue of 500 units. So what rate we have to find out. So we have to write the date is September 9. So the next date is September 9. There was no purchase, so no receipt. There was a issue of 500 units. So the quantity was 500. Now because we are doing first in first out, so first 500 that I had previously, I have to first issue those. That is why I'm going to write it over here, that 500. So the issue price I'm going to take it as 1 rupee because I'm first letting that out. So 1. So 500 gone. Now my balance what remains is after this, you see this is gone. So now what I have is left with me is balance is 100 of 1.10. That is 110. This remains. Now we are going to move to the next one. Next thing that we have is September 20. You can see 20 comes first. So 700 was purchased for 1.20. So September 20. I had purchased 700 units for 1.20. Now we are going to multiply 700 into 1.2. That will be 840. There was no issue. So what is remaining over here is 700 for 1.20 and 840. We are done with September 20. Now we are going to move to September 22. You can see over here. We will go in a chronological order. So September 22, it will be 500. So September 22, there were no purchase. There was an issue of 500. So first in first out means we have to first issue it from the first category that I have. First category that I have is this 100. So from 500, this 100 will be deducted and the remaining 400 will be deducted from 700 because we do not have any more lot of this, the first category. So that is why my issues will be broken into two parts. Okay. So we can write it down in this way that my issue was broken into two parts. So what we can do is There was 500. We will break it into 100. That was the first category. And the remaining 400, other category. 100, 400, the price was 1.10. So for 100, it was 1.10. And for the remaining 400, it was 1.20. So we are going to write that amount. 400 into 1.2 will become 480. After this issue is done, what I'm left with is, I'm no more left with this. This is done, gone. I am left with 700, some lots of 700, out of which 400 is gone. So what remains with me is 700 minus 400, that is 300. So 300 remains with me, and 300 of 1.20 per unit cost one is remaining with me. So 300 into 1.20. If we multiply it, we will get 360. So 360 of the stock was remaining. We are done with September 22. Now we are going to move to September 27, where we have made more purchases of 400, and this time for 1.30. So September 27, we have made purchases. Purchase amount was 400, 1.30. 400, 1.30. We will multiply it. 400 into 1.30. We get 520. There was no issue on that date. So what remains was, before there was 300 and now there is 400 more units, and this time of 1.30 price, and the amount comes to 520. Now we will move to draw the line and extend this. Okay. The next category that we have is September 30 for issue 500. So September 30, there were no purchase. There was an issue of 500. Now first in first out, the 500 will be first issued from this, and the remaining 200 from the next lot. So this 500, we can split it into some parts. That is the first 300 and then the 200. So 300 and then the 200. First 300 will be from this lot, from 1.20 category, and next one will be from 1.30 category. So first we are going to write 1.20, then we are going to write 1.30. Let's multiply it. So we will get 300 into 1.20. We get 360, which we are going to write it down here. And next 200 into 1.3, 260. We are going to write it down over here. After this is done, you see this 300 is over. This is done. This is gone. So the next 200 is gone from here. So 400 is no more 400. What remains over here in the balance is 200 of 1.30 category, which will be 260. Now September month is done. We will move to October. October 13 comes first. So we are going to write the date October 13. And October 13, you can see we have made purchase of 1000 units of 1.40 per unit. So 1000 for 1.40. So 1000 units for 1.40. We will multiply it. We will get 1400. There were no issue on that date. So now what I'm left with in my balance is 1000 units for 1.40 per unit cost. And once we multiply it, we get 1400. This is what I'm left with. After this, we will move to October 15, you can see. This was an issue of 500 units. So October 15, issue of 500. So no purchases were made. Issue was made for 500. Now we will see what am I left with. You can see first and first out. So this 200 of the previous lot is there. So this 200 we will be taking. So we will break the 500 into two parts, 200 and 300. Why am I breaking it up? Because in the first category I have 200 only left. So first will be from 1.30 category and the next will be of 1.40 category. Once we do it, we get, multiply it, we get 260 and 300 into 1.40 we get 420. Now we'll come to balance. Balance, you see this 200 is gone and 300 is gone from 1000. This 300 is gone from 1000. So what remains with me is 700. So we're going to write 700 and the valuation will be 1.40. So if we multiply it, we get 980. This is my balance for now. This is my balance. Now we will move to the next date. After October 15, we have October 20. October 20 purchase for 500, 1.50. So October 20, 500 units for 1.50. We will multiply it. 500 into 1.50, it comes to 750. There was no issue on that date. So now what we are left with is 700 from previous lot and now I have 500 of 1.50 per unit cost category. So this comes to 750. This is my remaining stock. Now after October 20, we will move to October 22 where there was an issue of 500 units. So we are going to write October 22. There were no purchase. There was an issue of 500 units. So from 500, this 500 will be straight away issued from this 700 category because there are stock. Enough stock for this 500. So this will be from the 1.40 category. So once we do it, 500 from 1.4 multiply it, we get 700. So now what we are left with is this 500 gone from this 700. So 200 remains of, so 200 remains of this 1.40 category and 500 remains of 1.50 as it is. So we're going to multiply it. This will be written as it is and 200 that remains for 1.4 category. This remains 280 the amount. Once that is done, this is done. Now we will move to the next. October is done. Now we have got November 11 and November 17. November 11, 500 was issued. So November 11, we are going to record it. November 11, there was an issue. Further issue. Issue of how many units? 500 units. So we're going to write it down here, 500 units. Now you see only 200 remains of the previous category. So we are going to split this 500 into two parts. The first part will consist of 200 remaining of the previous stock and 300 for the rest from the rest stock. So 200 from 1.40 category and 300 from 1.50 category. We are going to multiply it. 200 into 1.40 we get 280 and 300 from 1.5 category we get 450. Now what remains with us is, see, 300 gone from this 500. So 500 is no more 500. We have 200 left of 1.50 category. So 200 remaining from 1.50 category. Multiply it, we'll get 300. After this, let's move to the last one, that is November 17. There was a further purchase of 400 units for 1.60 category. Cost price, per unit cost price category. So November 17, we are going to record November 17, there were 400 units purchased. Per cost was 1.60. So we will multiply it. 1.60 with 400, we get 640. Okay. There were no issue on that date. So now what remains in my balance is 400 of 1.60 category. We're going to write it over here. We have to extend it a bit, the format. Okay. Now we are going to write the final thing, that is this. We will record this 400 units of 1.60 category finally. So 400 of 1.60 per unit. If you multiply both, we're going to get 640. So therefore, this is done. Now, therefore, if we are asked to value the inventory under the first in first out system, that is FIFO, then we are going to write it down as the 200 units of 1.50 and 400 units of the 1.60 per unit cost. If we multiply it, we will get 300 here and 640 here. Add it, we get 940. So this will be the answer for FIFO, inventory valuation system under FIFO.